And now the floor is for Massimiliano.
Good morning, everybody. I apologize for my voice. Of course, I lost it to come here to do the presentation. So I'm here as a representative of the SciCat project, which is a metadata catalog. Of course, I spare you all the details. We have seen enough technical details. The project is an international collaboration. There is plenty of to do, and we try to make it easier for you to integrate it in your infrastructure without knowing too much about, how to configure it, how to customize it. But cool technologies, cool people to work with. Please, if you have even 2 hours to spare, come and join us. The front end is an Angular, and back end is we use Nest. MongoDB, of course. Those ones are the documentation and the repository. These are some of the main actors that are adopters. Of course, I probably missed somebody. If I did that, please don't take personal offense. Let me know. I'm still trying to chase everybody down. So, oops, sorry. The front end can be customized, of course, colors, position, but usual suspect. Dataset list, dataset details, proposals, you name it, it's in there. I'm not going to bug you with that. We have a backend REST API that is totally built automatically from the data models that we have. And we have spent the last year trying to make sure that is completely up to date, so you can go there, you can read, every field is documented. Has been a long journey, let me tell you. So why am I here? Well, I could talk at length about the project because I spent so much time, but I want to present you with a couple of things that we have worked on. One is search. We realized that the internal search leveraging Mongo was a little bit on shaky grounds, and so we decided to integrate Elasticsearch. So if you come, you see this text search, you can type whatever you want, and the user sends it to the front end, you go to the, to the back end, there is a query conversion, go to Elasticsearch, you come back, dataset, PIDs, then you load the full dataset, and then it goes back to the user. Sounds really easy. My coworker has spent many hours trying to implement it. Now we are at the point where is in production. So Elasticsearch is optional. One thing that we notice is that if you make these extra services mandatory, a lot of facilities tells us, no, I don't want to use it, because why do I have to install this? I have my own system. And so just with a yes or no, false or true, I don't remember what you selected, you can do that. The advanced search provided by Elasticsearch can be accessed with a specific endpoint. Then there is all the data synchronization is transparent to the user or the system, the site admin. And then, we are trying to leverage, of course, the Elasticsearch. We are still at the beginning of it. There is plenty to learn. And we rank the results using the Elasticsearch. The second thing that I want to talk to you is jobs. What are jobs? So for us, jobs are something that needs to happen on a data set or a set of data sets, but SciCat cannot act on it, has to rely on something else, and has to keep track of it. So if I go back to SciCat, I know that what I ask you to do has been performed, has been successful, has failed, whatever it is, the results. So that's what we call jobs. And so the user say, okay, I want to create an archive jobs that works on this specific data set. SciCat makes sure that it has a record, and then talks to the external service that has the capabilities to do that. The external service executes the job and provides the status updates, and then the user can decide, I just want to see what is the results, or maybe I want to get an email or other way of communication. Why we have done it this way? Because, again, this service change from facility to facility. And so as a project, we cannot include all the different options, and it will take, I will say, years before we come to a conclusion where we say, okay, we adopt this solution or this other solution. So moving forward, the jobs were already implemented in our old version, but of course, first implementation, the type of jobs were fixed, were hard-coded into the code. The customization, you needed to rebuild the old code base if you want to change something, and the code was not following best practices. I think if I ask you, raise your hands if you run into this issue, probably all of us. And in our version 4, we try to address all this one. So the configuration, you don't have to change, touch the code. There is a nice page that tells you, here you configure it, you plop it in, the system takes care of it, and then we refactor the code in thinking about modularity. How can we expand in the future if somebody comes with some feature request? Then at this point, you just have to get one of the official release of the software, configure the jobs, and you don't have to do anything. So creating a new Docker image or an image, you don't have to do that all the time anymore. Better testing. We realized that we were lacking a lot of testing, which we're like, okay, let's do it right this time, and code coverage. Now, for the future, would be nice if we can have some kind of a plugin system, but we are at the early stage, and the people who are working on this, they're like, let us finish this first. So when we talk about the job configuration, of course, we are working with software engineers and scientists. Everybody has one, if not more than one opinion. We were able to condense all of it, and we have the job configuration. Of course, you want to have a way to track it. So if something goes wrong, the first thing that you do, you say, hey, is the same configuration that I was thinking I was using, which seems trivial, but it's not. And then you can have multiple configurations. So I can configure multiple jobs, archive, retrieval, I don't know, share with, whatever it is. Each job type has a name, and then what I call lifecycle periods. When I create it, what needs to happen? When the job is running on the external service, what are the updates that can receive, and when it's completed, what happens. So in each one of these you have different type of actions. Log it. Do a login, send an email, of course call an HTTP post somewhere, or send a RabbitMQ message or Kafka. That's more or less covers all of us, all of what we implemented right now, but of course we are open to suggestions. And permissions. Of course you don't want everybody to submit jobs out of the wazoo. So of course we have the dreaded all, means anybody can do it. If in the documentation there is a nice disclaimer, use it at your own risk. We don't take any responsibility. So at the top, it's what we call users, permissions. Everybody, you have to be authenticated, a specific user, or you have to be member of a specific group. The one underneath are related to the data set. These ones, you can create a job if all the data sets that you work on are public. These ones only if you have access, and these ones only if you're an owner. so we can kind of tailor to different use cases. And what's the status? Well, regarding Elasticsearch, we have the minimum viable product. We have tons of API tests, so all the API tests that runs without Elasticsearch now runs with Elasticsearch. So if anything, breaks specific for Elasticsearch, we will find it. Happens all the time that you tested on the normal database and then Elasticsearch doesn't like it. And so it's currently in production at ESS, and we are collecting internal user feedback. Now, we are trying to allocate some resources to do better integrations. Elasticsearch has tons of parameters that you can configure, and we are thinking about, we need to do some study to figure out what can we, allow the user to configure and what we can configure for them. You have all these two different set of users, the super user and the one that say, just do it, I don't care, as long as it works. And regarding the jobs, we have tons of unit tests, API tests, especially for the authorization. The poor woman that wrote all these tests, she wrote more than 200 tests. These tests are in CI, so they're run automatically. And we are trying to include this one in the Cycle Live. Cycle Live is a one-click solution if you want to test it out. So you don't have to worry about all the resources, configuration, and all that. If you want to talk to Carlos, we should be around here to talk to you. And then it's currently tested at PSI. And with that, I have to acknowledge who actually has done the job. I'm just the messenger and the one who does the PR for the project. This is my, Junji is my coworker, sits behind me. Poor guy, every time I talk about Elasticsearch, he runs away. And then for the job release is the Swiss contingency, Spencer, who is here in the room, Sophia and Despina. And then, of course, there is plenty of more people included in the project that, always listen and provide lots of good feedback. And with that, thank you so much.
Thanks, Max. Room for one question. So, two.
Thank you for nice talk. I also tried to use Elasticsearch and found that sometimes they use a lot of memory and query does not work. So I want to know how to manage the memory.
Usually my voice is louder, but today is not. So Jay, as Junji kindly asked us to use Jay for his name, because otherwise every time I have to think about it, how to call him and pronounce it correctly. He spent a lot of time tweaking these parameters, and he has admitted that we just scratching the surface. So I need to see. Honestly, I'm not an expert about it, but if you want, I can put in touch with him and he can share his experience. But definitely, that's one of the things that it's in our to-do list. Open the manual and start to go through and say, okay, what can we do to make it better? Because it's not an easy feature. And sometimes we think that we have the solution, and then there is a new query, and I'm like, Junji, Jay, this doesn't work. So,
thank you, Matt. Short question.
Yeah, it might be very short because it's about Elasticsearch as well, so if you don't know the answer, that's fine. How are you indexing the scientific metadata field from SciCat?
So that's a good question. So the first thing that we did, we were like, okay, if somebody goes in the text search, most likely is looking for something in the title, in the abstract, or names, right? So we were like, okay, let's make it easier for us and try to address that and make it work. that's part of the next round. We're like, okay, if I'm looking for sample temperature for this C, what do we do? So what we have done, actually, we are leveraging Elasticsearch for the keywords and, you know, partial matching for text, for the title, abstract, and few of these keywords. And then we put in so I think not all of them, but a subset of the metadata that we know. But those ones are more like a normal filter, like what we call our filters. You can sample temperature equal to or between in Celsius or whatever. Of course, there is a lot of room for improvement, but we haven't done like a systematic, you know, testing. But definitely, you know, it probably will take just for the work that my coworker has done, a year of work, I would say, even because Cycat doesn't impose, as of now, doesn't impose a metadata schema, because of course we are serving, you know, many people, right? Many facilities. So we're like, okay, what do we do? You know, but definitely it's something that we need to address. So,
Thanks again, Max. And